You can't prevent chronic disease, and severe memory loss, conditions like dementia, being one of them. Well, that is a complete mistruth, and one that I often hear, and a belief that we've all and commonly bought the story. That is, we can't prevent conditions like dementia. In today's episode, I am super excited to have a conversation with Dr. Dexter Shurney, who is the president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and we discuss this power of simple daily actions and how they can have a huge impact and health benefit. So this, as dramatic as it sounds, is not without merit. As you see, today, even people who have high risk, those people that have got a genetic risk for dementia, severe memory loss, by taking simple lifestyle actions, they can reduce their risk for dementia by 32%. That is powerful, and it might be easier than you think that you can apply in your life. Now, Dr. Shurney is an expert in lifestyle medicine. He has more letters against his name than most people have, and probably looks like an alphabet soup. Whilst that is tongue-in-cheek, Dr. Shurney is the Chief Medical Officer and Senior Vice President of Clinical Affairs at Sepang Go, and we talk about this exciting new nutritional program being created and launched out of San Francisco. As mentioned, he is the president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, editor of the Journal of Managed Care Physicians, and I could go on with all the accolades. There is certainly proof enough that Dr. Shurney is an expert in understanding the power of lifestyle medicine, and his insights are proof on what we can achieve through taking simple and daily actions to reduce our risk for chronic health conditions. Today's show is for you. If you're a little bit ho-hum on whether this lifestyle thing is all quackery or you're yet to be convinced, Dr. Shurney shares a very convincing personal story, and he shows unflinchingly that doctors are also people, and that he had battled his own experiences, and that was part of his journey in understanding the power of lifestyle medicine. Some of the main topics that we cover in today's conversation is what is lifestyle medicine and why does it matter? No doubt you're getting a theme of it already. He also shares valuable lessons that he's gathered by working with teams, workplaces, in his clinic, and throughout national campaigns. And he brings that in a really clear way on what you and I can do in our daily lives to reduce our risk for memory loss. At the end of this episode, if you have not done so already, I'd encourage you to subscribe and to like it, take a picture of the screenshot of where you're at right now, discuss it, come up with your main 1 or 2 points on what you've learnt today, discuss it, and then I hope apply it. So like it, share it, discuss it, and apply it. I'm David Norris, and this is the Memory Health Made Easy podcast. If you are after more exciting resources about our show, feel free to come across to memoryhealthmadeeasy.com, and we have the 9 principles for memory health for life, which is talking to all the things that Dr. Shurney talks about today. You can go to memoryhealthmadeeasy.com/learn, and you can access that free resource. Now, let's head over to the show. G'day, this is David Norris, and this is the Memory Health Made Easy podcast, brought to you by memoryhealthmadeeasy.com. Easy to remember, isn't it? Dr. Dexter Shurney, thank you very much for joining me on the Memory Health Made Easy podcast. I'm really grateful for your time.
Well, thank you for having me. This was quite an honor.
I came across, as I mentioned in our conversation before this podcast recording, that I came across your work through Dr. David Ferris, and he mentioned you in a conversation around your work in lifestyle medicine. And for me at the time, I was an occupational therapist that had been working with clients with neurological conditions for about 18 or so years. And my desire to help folk, because commonly when folk get referred to me, it is very much once the disease of, say, dementia or Parkinson's disease, etc., is full blown, where there are significant functional changes. And I had obviously been exposed to various stories and worked with various clients with tragic sort of situations that I thought, look, we need to do something better here to get in front of this disease curve. We need to get in front of what can we do to sustain our cognitive fitness for life? How can we stop memory loss? And at that time, I started teaching people just brain health 101. That was about 7 years ago. And through that, inquiring for me, I came across lifestyle medicine, and that was in the emergence, obviously, of getting greater traction. And you have been part of that journey. And I wanted to ask you some questions about how you came to, in your career, come to lifestyle medicine as such a powerful tool for health. What was the moments in your career trajectory that really helped you come to a point of this is where we need to go?
Yeah. So very similar to your journey, I was clinically trained as a general surgeon. And I realized that a lot of the things that I was being asked to treat as a general surgeon were actually preventable. And most of the things I really shouldn't have to be dealing with that I was dealing with. And it was at that point that I decided to make a move from general surgery to preventive medicine. And so I actually changed specialties at quite a young age and moved into preventive medicine, and also took on more of an administrative role. So in terms of policies and things like that would actually support prevention once I made that change. So that was the beginning of my journey. And one of the companies that I was chief medical officer for at the time, we would bring physicians together and we would devise care plans and protocols for chronic disease management. And as you might imagine, we had people from all on this panel, not everyone, but I mean, we had about, from 12 of the top universities in the country. And it was my job to bring them together, and we would derive these protocols for the management of chronic disease. And as I was doing this, someone came to me and they said, well, why don't you have any lifestyle medicine physicians, if you're really interested in managing chronic disease, on your panel? And I really had never heard of lifestyle medicine. And so I was intrigued, and I looked into it a little bit, and I invited a couple of guys that were doing lifestyle medicine to join our group. And one of the things they had to do when anyone enters or join the group is they had to present their data, they had to present their research, and why do they deserve a seat at the table, so to speak. And these guys started to talk about reversing type 2 diabetes. They talked about how they were managing cardiovascular disease, et cetera, et cetera. And what was interesting is that at the time, I was much heavier than I am now. I was about 65 pounds heavier. I was pre-diabetic. I was on medications for hypertension as well as high cholesterol. And even despite those medications, I wasn't under very good control. And here I am, board certified in preventive medicine. I'm the chair of this prestigious group of experts that we're supposed to know all of this, how to take care of these kinds of conditions. And yet I was suffering from those conditions myself. And I listened to these lifestyle medicine doctors and talk about, I started off as an N of one and, just sort of muddled my way through this, but with remarkable results. And the results came quite quickly, as you know, and I just became excited. And from that point on, much like you, I kept going further and deeper and deeper and deeper into the whole lifestyle medicine approach to care. And it just was exciting for me. So I did it for myself, and then I started to do it for family members.
So you were saying in regards to your family,
Okay.
that obviously you had an experience in yourself that there was a reversal of your symptoms in regards to diabetes and hypertension, and that you were also experiencing a significant, a change. You were overweight, and that there was a change in your weight as a result of making these decisions around what you do, exercise, food, how you interact with others, time for stress relief, etc. Tell me about the journey then with your family as being receiving of that information. That obviously they've witnessed your journey. How open were they to, that information with you?
Well, it's very interesting. There are many individuals in my family that are also part of the medical profession. and nurses, physical therapists. I'm the only physician, but certainly nurses and physical therapists, and also physician assistants. What was interesting is that the members of my family that were part of the medical profession were the ones, for the most part, who didn't make the changes. The people that made the changes were the other folks that were not a part of the medical profession, and they were intrigued, and they had never heard about potentially reversing their diabetes. And so a lot of them actually started on the same path that I was, again, with remarkable results. But unfortunately, the ones that were closest to the medical profession were the hard school. So, and you're just my cousin. So
Yeah.
you know how it is when you deal with family members.
Yeah, well, my exactly.
Yeah.
My story is that I had a very lucky experience to go on an exchange program when I was very young. At 17 years of age, I found myself living in Brazil, and I lived with a family that ran an orphanage and an aged care facility on one site in São Paulo. And my Brazilian host father was a geriatrician, and he worked very, very hard. And to the point that, it's not uncommon to be working 6 days in Brazil. And throughout his life, he ended up acquiring diabetes through food choices and lack of exercise and stress. And as a result of compounding factors, he also experienced heart disease. And suddenly, and very tragically, 2 years ago, he died of a sudden heart attack. And here again is an example of a situation where people who know how the body systems work are not appreciating the lifestyle essentials of how our biological organism is set up and designed and what it needs to operate well. And I guess one of the things that come to mind is for people to understand the term lifestyle medicine now you've gone through that journey of applying to yourself, you've worked with your family members, you've then gone to colleagues and built a deep collaboration in this space. What does lifestyle medicine mean? And how can we get that message out to folk who are wanting to make changes in their life? What is lifestyle medicine?
Yeah, lifestyle medicine is a very comprehensive, it's a holistic approach, really trying to use or allow the body to do what the body wants to do in terms of making itself whole and well. And I don't articulate exactly right. But our bodies are the remarkable organisms, and the body really wants to heal itself and to be well and not sick. I mean, we have an immune system. We have things that within us that are there to do just that. Dr. Greger gives an example. If you hit your arm on the table and you get a bruise, within a few days the bruise goes away. But if you continue to hit your arm on the table, the bruise will never go away. It will actually get worse. And, I guess at some point you might even break your arm if you keep hitting it on the table. And essentially the way that we live our lives is we are hitting ourselves, not just on the arm, but we're hitting ourselves with diet, lack of sleep, lack of physical activity, several times a day, thousands of times a year, and we never give our body the chance to heal itself. I mean, the body wants nutritious foods so that it can fight off free radicals with the antioxidants that we supply. The body wants to use exercise so that we can build up our endorphins and feel better, and brain-derived neurotrophic factors so that, we can cells from dementia down the road. I mean, our body is set up to do all of these things if we would just attend to some of the basics. And so lifestyle medicine is really the discipline of making sure, to the extent possible, that those basics are in place, those fundamentals are in place to strengthen the body, enable it to heal itself to the extent possible. Now, we know that by itself can probably eliminate anywhere from 60 to 70% of the chronic diseases, just then that in and of itself. And then for those other, 30% of the cases or percent of the time, that's when these other things that we call medicine should really come to the fore. And of course, we may have to give medications, we may have to operate and do surgeries, but imagine living in a world where 50 to 60, maybe 70% of the things we do are really unnecessary because we have just elevated ourselves to this heightened level of health through taking care of the lifestyle medicine kinds of things. And so I don't want to go too long here, but just one last thing before I pause. And so lifestyle medicine is about using those things that I mentioned, physical activity, how we manage our stress, nutritional status, and those kinds of things, not smoking, et cetera, building relationships, not only to prevent disease, but also in the treatment of disease and the reversal of disease. So it's like it's a dial, and you can dial it up and you can dial it down. And if you're trying to reverse the disease, you dial it all the way up. Hopefully we would all be doing the right things anyway, but you can actually dial it up and in a pretty short period of time, see some pretty remarkable results just using those things that I was talking about. So that's really a sort of a quick definition. Yeah.
One of the things that come to mind that I've referenced in previous shows, and especially in the conversation I had with Dr. Tom Gwillens, was around this physiological resilience. We have innately a quite a resilient body, an organism, being the human condition.
Yeah.
And it bends almost much like a bamboo, that we can flex and manage a lot of stress and we are resilient through it. However, sustained exposure to a strong breeze will always lean that tree, that bamboo, one direction. And the longer we're exposed to it, the less flexible we're going to be, and we're going to be prone to break. A very simple analogy to describe that: by using these tools, using these activities, these experiences, this life opportunity of eating colorful foods, eating things close to the natural sources possible, whole foods, often described that way, exercising frequently, getting adequate sleep, are things that are going to add up. And I noticed that there was a publication just released today on a press release. It was fortuitous for our conversation that I think it's the British Medical Journal, BMJ, published that by applying lifestyle interventions of exercise, etc., the things that we've spoken about, can add 10 plus years to the average person's lifespan. So
yeah,
compression of disease, we really want to live a life fully, and we don't want to have this experience of illness or ill health. Then compressing that time frame of which we're exposed to it is really the holy grail of what many of us are after. But I think you point out too that we can't disregard the power of lifestyle for treatment, and it is often neglected, is it not?
It is. And you almost need to think about this as when you see a person that comes into your office and they have one of these chronic conditions that we know is lifestyle related, we really need to do a deep dive into their lifestyle behaviors and see if we can't start making those changes. Now, we may have to give a medication temporarily, but we should communicate to the patient that my goal is to get you off this medication as I, improve some of these other things that I learn about, how you're living your life. Not to say that you're being negligent, because most people don't even understand what it means to live a healthy life. They've done several surveys, living healthy, and they say, 85% of them say, I'm living pretty healthy, or at least I know what to do. I just don't do it. But really what it turns out is that they are not, and actually they don't know what to do oftentimes. They don't know really what the best diets are. There's a lot of, hype out there and advertising and marketing that leads people in directions where they think it's healthy, but it really isn't.
I had a conversation with Bill Gassiamas, and Bill is a 4-time stroke survivor. Sadly, he experienced a stroke at the age of 38 years of age, very young, but obviously had a congenital or genetic risk factor associated with his experience of early stroke. And as he pointed out in his experience, was he thought he was living a relatively healthy life. However, under the rear vision mirror after a stroke, and it was, I smoked socially. I lived a very stressful life. I wasn't exercising that much. I didn't maintain good, solid social relationships. My food was on the go as is, but I could still go to the gym, and I thought that's what was required. And as a result, he built up, I guess, a number of risk factors that end up going bam, or, so to speak, in terms of a bleed in his brain. Sadly, he's had it 4 times because it was then realized it was a malformation. But since then, he's undertaken significant changes in his lifestyle that has meant that he has really cut down his risk. One of the things that comes to mind when we talk about lifestyle interventions and lifestyle medicine, the power of lifestyle medicine, is for those folk that are at very high risk of experiencing dementia in their lifetime, and those people that are carrying a genetic variant called APOE4. And some folk probably would appreciate this who are listening to this into this conversation today. Even with those folk that have a abnormally high compared to the average population that don't have that genetic risk factor, by taking and applying healthy lifestyle decisions for their persons, for their experience of who they are, they can reduce their lifetime risk by over 30%. That's 1 in 3 people reducing their experience or not having dementia in their lifetime, even though they have a high genetic risk for it. That's dramatic in terms of the power of lifestyle medicine.
Absolutely. And there's no medication that's on the market to date that has that kind of impact. So it's really all about lifestyle. And to your point about genetics, there are a couple of sort of landmark studies on this. One was the King's College London study, where they looked at female twins, identical twins, and they followed them for 10 years in terms of dementia. And those that were exercising and had larger, and this was guided by looking at their muscle mass in their thighs and their legs. And those that were more physically fit actually had a lower rate of dementia over that time period versus those that did not. And again, these were comparing identical twins. So it wasn't about the genes. I mean, they had the same risk genes or whatever, but it had to do with how lifestyle can actually protect your brain if you use it in the right way. And of course, the other study was the Honolulu aging study with Japanese people moving to the United States and what happened to them in terms of changes in lifestyle versus their counterparts in Japan. And so again, just some really good observational studies that talk about how lifestyle can really be impactful in a positive way if you're doing it right. Yeah.
Wow, a lot of stuff in this episode. Be right back into it. I want to share with you a little bit about memoryhealthmadeeasy.com and what you can find over there. Programs, resources, and community, all with one goal: to help stop avoidable memory loss. Here's a great place to start. The Memory Health Checkup shows you how to identify your personal risks and also set a map and course about what to do about them. The Memory Health Fast Masterclass gets you out of the gates quickly around applying the 9 principles for memory health for life. Want to work out your brain? Improve your brain performance with How to Train Your Brain. It's a 30-day brain optimizing program. And of course, we've got our flagship community, which is all about support, and you can ask me any question, where I'm your memory health coach to guide, support, and cheer you through the steps to achieve memory health. Come on over to memoryhealthmadeeasy.com/products where you can find out more. Now let's get back to today's episode. It's really good news for folk that we don't need to get lost in the scientific rationale why or the mechanistic understanding of why, because it is so accessible that putting on your joggers and going out for a walk as a starting point, if you've not moved for a long time, just making a commitment to walk the block, or making a change or decision to introduce more vegetables, more leafy greens in your diet, or making a commitment to, can I go to bed a little bit earlier or have caffeine only in the morning, not after midday? These are simple things that are going to tangibly help somebody start making choices or making, a reduction in their risk for memory loss. Because that's, at the end of the day, many folk are so terrified of losing their memory in their life that having simple things to do, and I guess this is what the rationale of the show is all about, Dr. Shurney, is helping people come up with simple actions that they could do. And your work in structuring some of the I guess, organizational programs around wellness and health has been instrumental to changing people's lives fundamentally. You've had a really direct impact on helping people reduce and reverse chronic disease. Some of the things that I read in your bio around some of the work on designing programs to help reduce diabetes, obesity, and hypertension. These are 3 risk factors associated with experiencing dementia later in life. And what are some of the simple things that folk can apply that you've found fundamentally so successful across the board in your work?
Yeah, and it's the simple stuff, to your point. It's simple things that people can have that aha moment about. I know that I can't get people to, become marathon runners, not everyone, some people perhaps, but most people aren't going to go that far. So what are the simple things, to your point, that people can start doing in their lives? And one of the things that I have found that works fairly well in terms of physical activity is just something called NEAT, non-exercise thermo, I'm forgetting it now, but it's non-exercise thermogenesis. And so basically what it is just how do you add things into your daily routine that can get you just to move more and burn up more calories. We know that, as they comment now, that sitting is the new smoking. And so we know how harmful it is for us just to sort of be sedentary. And so how do you just tell people and show people little tricks, So for example, I would tell people in my office environment that were going through our programs, anytime you're talking on the phone, stand up, just the act of standing and getting out of your chair. How do you schedule walking meetings? If it's not outside, even inside, but if you can do it outside, so much the better. Those kinds of things really make it much easier for people. The fact that when it comes to nutrition, you mentioned adding just colorful things to your diet. Even if you can't take away some of the bad things, at least you can add some healthy things to counteract that. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that by adding potassium to their diet, they can actually counteract some of the bad effects of too much sodium in their diet in terms of hypertension. And people really don't know the good sources of potassium, and they don't even think about that as being something that they can do before they take that, diuretic or antihypertensive medication. And so just showing people that, you can get this in potatoes, and bananas aren't the only source of potassium in the diet, and just gradually showing them ways that they can do this. Some things like adding flaxseed to your diet, just sprinkle some on your oatmeal, or hibiscus tea instead of drinking soda or pop. Those are some simple things that people can adopt. Or, not cooking with salt, but then adding a little bit at the table, so that the food actually tastes better when the salt hits your tongue, but yet there's not that much salt in the food because you didn't, cook with the salt when you were preparing the food. Can make a big difference. Most people don't realize that most of the salt that they eat doesn't come from the salt shaker. That's only about 12% of the salt. 76% of it comes from, how you cook the food and prepare the food or process the food might be another way to think about it. And so these are the kinds that can be powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And you referenced too there that, one of the other things is it being hidden in the food when we're buying things off the shelf, particularly after they've been manufactured in some way or processed from their whole form into a convenience. I think of your cereals, particularly, even your mueslis or your granolas that might be sitting on the shelf. They will all often have a significant amount of salt hidden in them. And I guess that's probably another element of what we're talking about here is obviously we've got the tips and strategies, but it's about enabling people, having people to come up being empowered to make better choices and giving them the tools, skills, and support to be able to do so. And that's, I guess, the growing community of people around lifestyle medicine, is that you've got doctors, nurses, allied health professionals who are out there to then support folk in making them more aware, to then enable them to act better act in a way that they're making choices about, well, my goal is to move more, and then from that goal, I'm going to springboard into looking at my diet as well and go through that cycle. And I think I've heard you speak about before that it's a team effort, that there are often folk that will present with many sort of situations that will require a combined effort. And I believe that is fundamentally going to be the case for many folk, is that they need a support team around them sometimes to help navigate their preconceived beliefs, where they're at in life, and overcome some of those significant challenges they might, confronting with their health.
That's right. That's right. And it also speaks to the built environment and the culture that we find ourselves in. So right now we live in a culture, most of us, that is pointing us and nudging us in absolutely the wrong directions. And in fact, when we try to resist that, oftentimes we're laughed at, or people think, well, everyone else is doing this, but we should also tell them that everyone else is dying prematurely from diseases they don't need to die from. But you went back to the study that was just in the British Medical Journal about 10 years, adding 10 years to your life based on lifestyle. Well, those kinds of results have been seen before. The Adventist 2 study, for example, that's been going on for decades, and also as part of the Blue Zones, Loma Linda, California, they have fewer cancers and their incidence of heart disease is much less. The Blue Zone's the same kind of thing. But the reason I'm mentioning those two is that their cultures and their environments is really what's driving their health and their longevity. I don't believe that the people in Okinawa are any different than the people elsewhere in the world, except where they live in that environment that's around them and nurtures. Australia and the United States, at least in these urban centers in these developed countries, is that our culture has changed so much that now we have to have special programs to put in place to help nudge people in the different direction than the culture and society is having them go in. That's really the problem. And so how do we combat that? It's not a matter of willpower sometimes, but it's this whole system that is just set up against us, which really can sometimes be overwhelming for individuals. There are folks like us that, we're just going to, man up and we're going to go through it, but not everyone has that kind of willpower. Most people don't. And so if anything that we can do to kind of help that built environment and society in general move in these directions, is going to really be better for everyone.
There was a term some years ago that I came across, and I'm going to really struggle to remember the gentleman's name who came up with the term, and I'll put it in the show notes once I find it and the reference, but it was communities that he coined the term livability. And livability, which referenced that integration and connection around all facets of our beings, our life. And how can we create communities that nurture this? And I really hear from what you're saying around our urbanization and isolation and breakdown of the traditional community structures, which were built on survival and being able to achieve something greater by combining themselves or interacting together. And in that, there was obviously shared roles, shared meals, shared interactions, shared celebrations, which has fractured somewhat. And I think, I'm also mindful a lot of the work around social genomics and understanding the power of our social relationships and how that is being translated on what is being turned on or off at a very cellular genetic level. And that is also, I guess, a fascinating thing for me on how do we then create this and support this, and then move away from obviously being, you, myself, trying to create these environments to engage people in a way of community, but how do they then become sustainable in themselves beyond us? And that's perhaps the next step in the evolution of lifestyle medicine, is creating sustainable communities that are able to sustain these things.
I would totally agree. I would almost say that the reason we have a lifestyle medicine movement is because of where society has started to break. If we lived in societies that, health was the culture, then, if everyone lived in a blue zone, there would really not be that much of a need for lifestyle medicine. But because most of us don't live in blue, then we have to have lifestyle.
So what Dr.
It's
Shurney...
really kind of sad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what for folk that are listening and probably scratching their head about blue zones? Blue zones is these areas of the world which have demonstrated a couple of things. One of which is health, and it conferring longevity. And these communities have popped up all over the world. One is Okinawa. There's another one in the Mediterranean, and you referred to one in the US as well, didn't you, Dr. Shurney? And I probably referred to Dan Boutner as being the person out there that champions a lot of the work in this space at Blue Zones. And again, I'll put a link in the show notes for folk that want to explore Blue Zones as well. Dr. Shurney, your work presently is kind of very exciting. You're over at Sepang Go now, and as I understand, and the thing that excited me is because it answers or provides a solution to a problem I've regularly encountered, and that is helping folk access healthy meal choices. And at this stage here in Australia, when I canvass the market, we've got a lot of things set up for weight loss. We have things set up for saying that we provide nutritious meals, but where there is a lack is having targeted meal options to support people through their specific health need. And that's something really exciting that Sepang Go's tackling. Can you explain a little bit more about that at the moment? And I guess the exciting part of your work nowadays.
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, this is my life now. And what's really exciting about it is because it's based on a digital platform, you can actually reach the masses. So as an individual physician, I can certainly impact one patient at a time. As the administrator of a large employer's benefit design, I can impact, the employees of that particular organization. But the promise of Sepang Go is that we can reach thousands, if not millions, around the globe based on the use of technology. And so essentially what it does is it tries to break down the barriers of what come between eating healthy. And people really get this and they like it. And if you ask people, if your 3-year-old came to you and said, I want to have cake and ice cream all day, most people would say, no, you can't do that because it's unhealthy. So people at a gut level understand this. And so then you ask them, why don't they eat that? Why don't you eat better if you know that good nutrition is where you really what you should be doing? And they'll say, well, it costs too much, it's inconvenient, and the food doesn't taste good. Those are probably the 3 biggest things you hear. And so what Sepang Go has tried to do and is doing is that we try to remove those barriers. We try to make it convenient. We try to make it affordable. And we try to make it so that the food is actually out of sight, very good. And, if you're serving up good food, people will come. They will stand in line at a restaurant for good food. It just so happens that this good food is also healthy for you. So it takes the guesswork out of it, but it also takes the diet factor out of it that, I can't wait to get off this diet so I can eat some good food, because you're eating good food all the way through the program. And so we basically have 2 programs. One, I'm sorry, go ahead. You had a question?
I was going to ask, at the moment, the footprint of Sepang Go, whereabouts can folk access it? Do they need to go through their doctor? What's the process of connecting with Sepang Go, and what is the geographical footprint for it?
Sure. So the geographic footprint is all the United States. So you can get us anywhere in the U.S. We have some designs on going overseas, but not at the moment. We're not there. And usually the way people access us is through their employer or through their health plan. So through the health plan, or through the self-funded employers is usually the way that they get to us. Yeah.
Got it. And you've got 2 programs at the moment?
Yeah, we have 2 programs. One is called Food Smart, and it's really a play on words because it's actually being smart about what you eat, because it serves up things based on your health status, your nutritional status, I should say. and also things that you're trying to work on. If you're trying to lose weight, then it would serve up different things than if you're not. And also based on your allergies and your preferences. And it starts off with something we call the Nutri quiz. And with the Nutri quiz, then you get a score. And then based on the gaps and where you are and where you want to be and where you should be, then we serve up recommendations in terms of the foods that you should be eating, incorporating into your diet, meal plans and things like that. And so through the digital app, you can actually order those foods, and you can also order those foods and receive them at a discount. And the other thing that does is it changes the purchasing environment for food. And so now going through the app, you're going to see the healthy things that are good for you based on where you are. And you'll get the discounts just as if you were clipping coupons in the newspaper, but you avoid all of the temptation of maybe I'll get the donuts because those are on sale too here next to the vegetables.
Oh,
so it changes the environment, and then those foods are then delivered to you. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Look, for some, I've said to my wife many times, I cannot go to the shop or the grocery store hungry. No, it's like the cardinal sin of temptation is raised, and it brings up a very thin curtain between my willpower and things that are looking very easy, very tasty. And so what I like about this is not only that you're giving people, I guess, a safe space, but you're providing something super tasty and also very targeted. I love the concept around the Nutri quiz. It's something that I do with my folk when they come into my environment. It's taking them through about what they do and I normally do it over a time span of, a week or two, and getting them just to track what happens. And all of a sudden we can see some low-hanging fruit, pardon the pun, of where people can sort of target on some simple things. Oh, look, I can see this and this. This might be the next step. Here's some resources to make it work. This is very, very exciting. Given your work nowadays is obviously there and being president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, what's exciting you about the frontiers of lifestyle medicine? And further to that, how can people be involved, either be a health professional or somebody who's listening to this go, how do I learn more about lifestyle medicine for myself?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's one of the most exciting things I've done in my life. And it's such an honor too. Lifestyle medicine has just caught on fire. And so it couldn't be a better time to be the president of such a wonderful organization. And it's just the beginning. We just celebrated our 15th year anniversary as an organization. And when I did my State of the College address a couple of months ago, I said, well, 15 still means we're a teenager. We're still in our adolescence. And that means better things are in the future and to come. So just hold on. And I really, truly believe that. We have grown over 500% in the last 5 years. And that just tells you the excitement around this. And physicians are gravitating to this. We're enrolling about 100 new members every month. And it's just organic. It's just word of mouth. Physicians are really excited about that. So it's really an exciting time. We also do accept non-physicians as members. Probably about 20% of our membership are not physicians. So those that are in allied health, nurses, PhDs, researchers, therapists, coaches, there's an opportunity for all of them to get along and come along with lifestyle medicine. We talk about lifestyle medicine as being a team sport, and physicians don't have a monopoly on this. It really is a team sport. And so therefore we welcome all to the tent. So that's one thing. If you have no ties to, the medical profession, there are still ways that you can become involved either through your physician, and there are other organizations that we can direct you to that are also doing some very exciting things in the way of lifestyle medicine from a layman's perspective too. So maybe I can give you some of those things and you can put on your link after I'm done.
No, you're right. I was going to say I'll certainly do that, Dr. Shurney, and put in the links to the college website. I know you've got a good resource page there with some vetted research. So I think that'll be a great place for people to roll their sleeves up if they're hungry for information.
Yes, it is. It really is. And again, it's very exciting. I would say that the another area that is really exciting for me is all the research that's being done around the gut microbiome and what effect that has on our health, our overall health. And what we're finding is that the things that we have been doing in lifestyle medicine directly impact that gut microbiome. Even, we might think of food as probably being a natural thing, microbiome. But certainly all of these things play a role together. And we're just now starting to scratch the surface of understanding how all of that works and the interactions and the synergies. And to me, that is just really fantastic and exciting. And also the role that it plays, getting back to what you were commenting on earlier, our memory, our mental health, depression, anxiety, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, that whole spectrum of how our brain functions is also something that's being unraveled through the gut microbiome and the role that it plays.
I've had the pleasure of having two wonderful conversations with Dr. Amy Lockman from the Food and Mood Centre here in Australia, and also Stephen C. Anderson, who was the co-author of the book Psychobiotic Revolution, which is him and Professor Dinan and Professor Kreinen, who I guess spearheaded the work and pioneered some of the early work, which has now exploded, around how there are certain species of tummy bacteria that are directly linked to our mood. And the Psychobiotic Revolution as a book is a fantastic read of summary of significant science in the work of Professor Kreinen and Dinan, and looked at the whole gut microbiome. And obviously, Dr. Amy Lockman as well has added an immeasurable amount of insight to that as well. It is clear that the gut microbiome has a significant role to play in our cognitive fitness for life and nurturing that. I also saw recently an award to a group in Sweden that are doing some fantastic work around irritable bowel syndrome and its link to mental health. And they were recently awarded a significant amount of funding to continue some research. So I look forward to seeing how that evolves over time as well. Dr. Shurney, thank you very much for your time today. We've had a wonderful conversation, which I guess really demystified what lifestyle medicine is, helped us understand some of the simple things that folk can do tactically on a day-by-day basis regarding what they can do to make simple changes. We've highlighted some of the amazing innovations that are happening around lifestyle medicine. And in terms of people's risk for memory loss, lifestyle interventions, lifestyle medicines not only represent a tool for prevention, but also throughout that disease trajectory. And it's something that I wish more and more folk would pay attention to. And I hope this show reaches as many people as it can who need to hear about how wonderful just simple things of moving more, sleeping better, eating well, nurturing social relationships, getting adequate time to rest and relax and de-stress as powerful tools to live a beautiful, rich and wonderful life. I want to thank you very much, Dr. Shurney. And for folk to stay in touch with you and your work, what would be the best place for them to find and be in touch with your ongoing work?
Well, they can certainly find me on LinkedIn and just say that they heard me on the show, and I'll be happy to make them part of my network, and we can communicate and take it from there. So that's probably the easiest way to reach me. But they can also reach out to sepanggo.com, and they're interested in some of those programs, and also through the American College of Lifestyle Medicine.
I'll be sure to put all the show references. We've covered quite a number of studies that we've referenced in our conversation today. So for folk that want to follow up on some of those reference points, they'll be in the show notes, as well as the links to Dr. Shurney's work. Dr. Shurney, thank you very much again for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, it's been my pleasure as well, David. And thank you for the work that you do. It's really making a difference. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I wish you a fabulous 2020. What a fantastic conversation today with Dr. Shurney, which I'm super grateful for. Of course, if you've liked this show, I'd encourage you to subscribe if you've not done so already. And feel free to come across to our show notes for episode 12 with Dr. Dexter Shurney, where you can grab a list of the references as well as grab some of the free resources. This show is brought to you by our 9 Principles for Memory Health for Life, a free resource which you can get at memoryhealthmadeeasy.com/learn. And again, this really speaks to simple lifestyle strategies that you can apply in your life. Now, the next step is, what are you going to do with this information? Well, one of the things that you could do is like this show. And what I encourage you to do is take a screenshot. Come up with 1 or 2 things that you've recalled about the show that really resonated with you, because you're also relearning this. You're repeating it. You're coming back to this information and you are in a much better position to apply it in your life. So like it, share it, discuss it, and apply it. Again, I'm your host, Dave Norris. Thank you very much for joining me on the Memory Health Made Easy podcast. Until the next episode, thank you. If you really enjoyed today's conversation and have enjoyed other conversations on the podcast, Memory Health Made Easy, come on over. And I'm super excited to announce, ready, drum roll. That's right, I've got a Facebook group, Memory Health Warriors. A Memory Health Warrior is somebody who wants to turn up for themselves, their family, and their community, to have abundant energy and to play life fiercely so that we can have a beautiful brain for life, for memory health for life. The tribe's mission is simple. We're going to achieve 1 million beautiful brains, healthy, gorgeous brains, so that we can have memory health for life. And it's for folk who want to go a bit deeper with the content around the stuff that we go through here on this podcast. So join me over on Facebook at Memory Health Warriors. That's right, plural. And come and see what it's all about. Until next time, I'm your host, Dave Norris, and this is the Memory Health Made Easy podcast. Thanks for listening. The purpose of Memory Health Made Easy podcast is to educate and to inform. It is no substitute for professional care by a doctor or qualified professional. This podcast is provided on the understanding that it does not constitute medical or personal professional advice or services. Instead, we would encourage you to discuss your options with a healthcare provider who specializes in your particular needs.